Baylor Bears just miss the big upset over Houston, but they might have proved they can make a run at this thing. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another edition of a Hushed Tones Baylor basketball postgame after the Bears lose a tight one to the Houston Cougars. 65-61 is the final. Looked like the upset might have been on for a ton of this game. Houston is Houston in the end. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas. I've been up since 5 in the morning. I'm very tired, but this game intrigued the heck out of me. And I love that word, intrigued. We'll talk about why in just a second. But the Bears, the upset bid does fall short. They're up at halftime. It's going really well for a ton of the game. And my big takeaway after this is I actually feel kind of good. I feel the last two games, I feel as good about this team as I have in a while. Now, I don't think they played flawless against TCU. I think they played pretty well for most of the game against a desperate team on the road. And it kind of fell apart at the end, but they still got the win. And in this game, I mean, whoever the color commentator was in this game actually said it at the end, kind of took the words out of my mouth a little bit. It's like Baylor played well enough to win this game. And they worked hard enough to win this game. They didn't, and that's what matters, right? They didn't. Houston's just, better. But that was a full 40-minute effort without the boneheaded basketball IQ that we've seen a lot of this season. I mean, guys were doing what it took to win the game. And the good news is, in terms of the NCAA tournament, you're not going to see a team as good as Houston for a long time if you're Baylor. You worry about that 2, maybe 3 games into this thing. 3, maybe 4, I guess is what I mean to say. That's where we need to start. Houston is one hell of a basketball team. I know we've said this the last couple of years, but once again, this can be a Final Four Houston Cougars team. So you're losing very closely to a team that could well be cutting down the nets at the end of the season. And the way that we've seen Baylor play this season against a team as good as that Houston one, that should have been, a 20-point loss. And especially it should have been very demoralizing the way that LJ Cryer was shooting on them in the first half. I mean, of course, LJ has a tremendous game. In his second time back to Waco, 23 points. But the first half for him was pretty incredible. I think he 5 of 5 from 3 in the first half. He ends up going 6 of 9 for 23, tying the lead for all scorers because VJ also had 23. I thought it was another really good Norchad Omier game, 13 and 16 against Jawan Roberts. That was proving a statement, man. Roberts didn't dominate him statistically in that first game down in Houston, but I thought Roberts was definitely the better player in that game. I think he's had a better season than Norchad, and he had a good game himself, 11 and 10, but I thought Norchad really neutralized him and did what he wanted, especially offensively. It's still a struggle bus for some of this backcourt, guys like Rob Wright, Jaden Nunn, Jeremy Roach. They combined for 9 points on the night. Celestine, it kind of does his thing. He hits one big shot, one huge 3. Baylor's 3-point percentage stinks. They're not a good 3-point shooting team, but their 3-point percentage when they absolutely need a basket or the game's over has to be 150%. They hit a bunch of those. But they did not shoot it well from 3 in the whole game. Houston did. You look at the numbers, there's just the raw numbers of it, and it's pretty even. Baylor dominated on the offensive boards, which I was really impressed by. That's something that we saw Baylor be really good at when they were good this season, before kind of the wheels fell off of the thing. But this was just it looked like a pretty evenly matched game. Each team led for over 17 minutes. Houston did not have a field goal the last 6 minutes of the game. Like Baylor really clamped it down defensively. Now, when you see that stat and see that the other team didn't make a shot that was being guarded for the last 6 minutes, and you don't come back and win the game when the game was this tight, yeah, it stinks. But you saw a pretty evenly matched game for one team looking at a double-digit seed and the other, locking up a 1 seed and being a top 3 team in America. So I think there's some belief that can be had for this Baylor team. Is really the point of this post game. Is I'm not saying like, oh, here we go, Final Four, but 2 weeks ago, I said this was a team that didn't look like it should even be in the NCAA tournament, let alone talking about winning a game in the NCAA tournament. I saw a team tonight that if they play like that, they can. I can see them getting out of the first weekend. I could. It would take, obviously, it would take 2 upsets to get there if you're a 10 seed. But like if they play with that kind of effort, and maybe one of those games they actually get something out of the backcourt from guys not named VJ Edgecombe, like that to me was as impressive as we've seen them in a while. And it sucks that it comes in defeat, because going into this season, you looked at this game and you're thinking, yeah, we're not pounding our chests after a 4-point loss at home to Houston, because these were 2 top 10 teams. You expect, with what we've seen the last 5-6 years, you expect to win games like this. But I thought they played really well, and they showed a lot of heart and a lot of effort, especially on the defensive end. So we won't get too long in this post game. One thing on Houston too, it's a really good team, man. It's a really good team. And LJ Cryer's a good player. He's not the Big 12 GOAT, but he's a really good player, man. And like I said on the crossover on Friday, I don't know, like if we were sitting there last year yearning to have him on the team, but yeah, you absolutely could use him this year. Could use him. I don't know. I wasn't obviously in the building tonight. It looked like he was playing to the fans just a little bit. I don't know. Those of you who were in the building would have seen it a little bit more than I did. Apparently there were some fan wars tonight at the Foster Pavilion. But again, I thought this was a good showing by Baylor tonight. You would have wanted this in late January, early February at like the latest, because now you see it and you're like, maybe this is a unit that can work together. Maybe there is something to the injuries and that they just didn't have the right team out there the whole time. But at this point, it's March 8th. Like if you're seeing this at the beginning of, or the end of January, you're thinking, okay, maybe this is the top 10 team. Maybe this is a Final Four team. But now you see it and you're like, okay, maybe they can scrap together a win in the tournament. Maybe two. If they play with this kind of effort, balls to the wall kind of thing for 40 minutes. Flame says LJ Cryer got it. He does. It's a good player. And man, that was tough in the first half. I will say, moment of the game for Baylor fans is after he's 5 of 5 from 3, like you can't touch him out from beyond the arc. He has a breakaway layup that gets blocked out of nowhere by VJ, who had that and the dunk from the Big 12 logo. Just again, that's the highlight of the night kind of stuff. And he misses the layup in the last 30 seconds. That could have really made that an interesting game. And again, good commentary on it. I don't remember who the guy is, but he's not leaning in towards the basket. He's leaning away and he's trying to shoot right-handed from the left side. It's a tough shot, but I've been saying all year long that VJ needs to take more control offensively and just know when he's a mismatch on the court and when he's the best player on the court. And I think he did that in that moment. He just missed the shot. I don't think it was a great shot selection, but I've also been telling him he needs to take more shots all season long. So that's tough. T-Dub says Houston will lose again in March. Lol. Yeah, well, if they lose in April, that means they're in the Final Four. So yeah, they might. And I think this Houston team's in a better spot than they were going into the tournament last year. and they were, I believe, the number one overall seed last year, if I'm not mistaken. They might not have been, but they were definitely a 1, and they were very similar record-wise to this team. I think both these teams lost 1 game in the Big 12, which is, outstanding, incredible. I wouldn't trade, Baylor's team the last 5 years for Houston's team the last 5 years, because that would take away a national championship. But the last 2 years, heck yeah, I'd take that, man. But yeah, I think this team can go to the Final Four. I think they're in a better injury position than they were last year. And that's not even including the Jamal Shebb one. In fact, Parker talked a lot about it on Friday. Roman says LJ might be the GOAT, by the way. No, he's not, man. It's okay to just be a good player. He's a really good player who's very accomplished in this conference. 4 regular season conference championships is incredible. He's not a GOAT. He's not the best guy. He wasn't the best guy in his own backcourt any of his years. He's a really good player, though. Yes, Scotty B mentioning women playing in the title game tomorrow against TCU, the rematch 1 week later. How about that? 1 week later. That is awesome. And Scotty also says Baylor women's basketball getting a 4 seed, regardless of what happens tomorrow. So that's got them hosting, which I think is great for the Foster Pavilion. I think that's absolutely awesome. But anyway, I really think you saw some positive things from this Baylor team tonight. They looked like the rebounding team again. I mentioned it kind of in passing on the show yesterday, but each of their big wins this year, and granted some of their losses too, but they're like Baylor's big wins, which to me are, sorry, burping there. To me are what? St. John's, Kansas, this second TCU game, maybe not the best opponent, but certainly a big game for them and a big win that kind of locks them into the tournament. I look at those games, and Arkansas was the other one. Arkansas is looking good all of a sudden again. I mean, they're going to get into the tournament now, but Arkansas early on, that was a top 20 victory. In each of those games, Norchad has been tremendous. As much as we talk about VJ Edgecombe, and he certainly needs to be a very important part of this team, it's almost like I've been looking past Norchad Omier. Like, he needs to be not just double-double. He needs to be awesome for them to score big wins. And he was awesome tonight. They just didn't make enough plays in the end. But I really liked the way that everyone got after it defensively. I think they were good in the man-to-man and in the little bit of zone that they used. Neither team had many turnovers. In fact, they both had 9. So nothing crazy in terms of defense's forced turnovers. But look, I mean, Baylor's been fast and loose with the basketball all year. And they had single-digit turnovers against the defense as good and as turnover happy as Houston. Like, I know that's not the moral victories we want to be touting on March 8th as we go into postseason basketball, but that's improvement. That's a kind of a baby step late in the season. Nunn and Roach, they didn't give you anything offensively, really, or Rob Wright either, but they didn't turn the ball over. VJ and Norchad did give you something offensively. And, you can't win a national championship like that. I don't think you can get to a Final Four like that, but you can get out of the first weekend like that. I ain't putting the mortgage on it, but I'm just saying, guys, you can get out of the first weekend playing like that. And maybe it was just this team needing to get fully healthy, which is as close as they're going to be right now. But if they have this kind of focus and this kind of effort, they can win a tournament game, maybe 2. They just need to treat it the way they treated this game, the way they treated the TCU game, and they had better execution down the stretch in this one than they did against TCU when they blew that lead. Houston had the lead back comfortably by the time Baylor, by the point in the game that Baylor was starting to blow it on Tuesday night. So Scotty does bring up another great point about the women's team as they go into the Big 12 championship game. Nettie Vonleh, after I was pretty critical of her against Sedona Prince last week, she's got another shot at her tomorrow, but 37 tonight, 37 in a big overtime win against Oklahoma State. That was a nice bounce back win for the team formerly known as the Lady Bears, because they got straight up embarrassed by Oklahoma State earlier this year. And to get kind of a championship setting in the Big 12 tournament and take them down like that was really impressive. And again, it kind of swings you back to, last week I was questioning it. I know some fans were too, of like, are they ready for these big games again? Like, does it take someone being hurt on the other side for them to get these big wins? They lose it on their home court on Sunday. They come back with a big win today. They're in the championship game on Sunday. We will have coverage of that post game and on Monday's show. Let me know what you guys thought about the men tonight. Like, am I buying in too much? Am I drinking the Kool-Aid? Am I too naive? I'm not saying they're going to make a deep run here. In fact, it's probably more likely they just lose the first round. Way more likely they do that than they go to the Sweet 16. But I saw an effort and a cohesiveness tonight that we haven't seen in a long time. And I think that is something to be positive about for this team. Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. I've been up for so long. We're going to lose an hour of sleep tonight, so I need to go to sleep, and you guys need to as well. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. We will see you later on. Like and subscribe. Helps out the channel a lot on Locked On Baylor.